Another edition of Real Talk. I am your host, Joshua VanDerNoord. Happy to be with you guys once again on a Thursday talking about movies. I am, of course, as always, joined by the amazing, the talented Jack, a.k.a. Kinoflex, and John Ward of John Ward Cinematics. How are we doing today, gentlemen? Jack, doing all right?
Yep, doing pretty good.
John?
Surviving. Oh, I cut you off already 5 seconds in. I am surviving.
Surviving. I know you guys are up in good old Pennsylvania, and I'd imagine it's very cold.
It was
Extremely.
in the negatives this past week. Right now, I think it's right around 0.
Oh, baby. That's crazy. Baby, it's cold outside, but today we'll get right into today's topic. Today we're talking about divisive endings. Movies, I kind of let the interpretation of my co-panelists, what they mean by divisive endings, how they're rating their movies and whatnot based on that. Leave it up to individual interpretation, but how I basically describe it is ending where the fans, the general audience reaction to it was split down the middle. And so with that being said, we're going to segue right into today's movie of choice, Seven.
Let's finish it.
Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, Gwyneth Paltrow.
Have you ever seen anything like this? No.
7.
So guys,
What's in the box?
what is in the box, Jack?
Well, do you actually want me to spoil it, or do we actually?
I'll tell you, it's not one of Gwyneth Paltrow's pussy-scented candles. It's her head. It's her freaking head. Oh boy.
Is this actually the film that put David Fincher on the map as a filmmaker? Because I know, like, his first film, Aliens 3, like, that was dog shit. But you can't even call it a divisive ending because nobody liked that ending. But yeah, is 7 the film that made him famous?
I think it is.
Yeah, because Fight Club was after that.
Mm-hmm.
Was Fight Club after 7?
Yeah,
So this
7
made
was
in 96,
95, I think.
95 or 96.
Really?
And Fight Club was 99 or 2000.
Yeah, 99, I think. 7 was 95.
Interesting. I was not aware of this. I thought I knew it was 90s, but I thought it was much, much later or early 2000s.
Well, I'll tell you what, when you don't light a movie, Josh, it ages really well visually.
That, and you've got a lot of ageless actors in it. The main characters are Morgan Freeman, Brad Pitt, and Kevin Spacey. They're showing their age a little bit now, but for a good decade and a half, they were kind of one note in the age department. But with that being said, we can kind of, I know the topic of today is divisive endings, and we will get into the ending of this movie, but I kind of want to gauge you guys' general thoughts before we get to that portion of the show. Jack?
On what a divisive ending is? Sorry.
Yeah.
I meant that, Jack.
Well, yeah, go ahead and tell me what you guys define as a divisive ending.
By all means,
I
Jack.
mean, probably it's pretty straightforward, like you said, Josh. It's how I define divisive ending is an ending where it's evenly split. You have one side of the audience saying it's really good, or you have like one side of the audience saying it's really bad. And whether it's good or bad is up to the viewer to decide, which leads to some debate. So I would say 7 qualifies for that label because of its notorious ending of what's in the box, as you guys both alluded to. Whether or not it's a good or bad ending is what we're going to get into, but that's how I view a divisive ending.
I think maybe the one thing I would add to it is maybe as like an individual viewer, or those viewers in aggregate, like a movie that you loved up until the ending. like an ending that sort of maybe possibly turned you against the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a few on my red, green, yellows of that nature if we get to it. But yeah, like something that you were kind of on board with the whole way until the end sort of ruins it. I would also call that a divisive ending.
All right, so it sounds like we're actually really on the same page when it comes to divisive endings. And the truth is this movie Seven. Nowadays, people are the opinion is actually pretty unanimous on the ending. The general consensus is that it is good. But I remember hearing in like researching about this movie for a different project in the past that when it came out, the audience was split. There was a lot of people not satisfied with basically how it ended. So before we get into that, actually, let's start with the plot. Jack, you want to give us a little bit of a plot synopsis on Seven?
Right. So it takes place in an unnamed city. It could be New York. It could be Pittsburgh. It could be a number of just major American cities. It could be an entirely fictional one too. But
it could be the city you live in.
It could be the city I live in. Yeah. But it follows Morgan Freeman, who plays Detective Somerset, and he is a disillusioned detective who is working his last week as a detective before retirement. And he's working with a young recruit, a young new detective named Mills, who is played by Brad Pitt. And they are both working together to find the notorious serial killer John Doe, and who has left a number of grisly murders in his wake, and they are all based around the 7 deadly sins. So throughout the course of the movie, they uncover these murders and try to figure out what his motivations are, but only for John Doe to eventually reveal himself and essentially turn himself in. But in a twist, his last victim was the wife of Mills, and he uses his anger against him so Mills can kill John Doe, and making him the final victim of his 7 deadly sins themed murders, and essentially having him win in the end, which is what I think is what was the most divisive aspect. What makes the ending so divisive, because the bad guy wins in a way, and I don't think a lot of audiences at the time were used to these sour note endings like this, especially for a young up and coming star like Brad Pitt. But before I give my thoughts on the ending, like, what do you guys think?
Well, yeah, it's important to understand the context. This was mid 1990s, which I know you guys were just being born, but I was already 50 years old at that point, as far as you guys are concerned. There's the bad guy winning was sort of a newish thing that was subverting expectations and kind of left you with a not good feeling back in the 90s. Also, believe it or not, that Gwyneth Paltrow's head in a box, even though it's not shown, it's only ever implied, was considered excessively violent and dark. Things like that. Nowadays, watching a 1995 movie through a 2025 lens, it's almost PG seeming. I mean, it's not gory really, other than that fat guy and some blood and stuff.
But the sloth guy was pretty horrific.
That's what I mean. Yeah, the fat guy. Yeah, there's some that's just more gross than it is horrific. Honestly, I'm not a gross out horror guy. I don't know about you guys, but it's like a jump scare, if you will, to just have a fat gross thing. Same thing, same category. It's not entertainment.
Well, I think Jack is referring to the guy who was like strapped to a bed for a year. He had bitten his own lips off.
I'm thinking of Gluttony.
Yeah.
That wasn't that. You don't even see his face for like 1 second.
Yeah, but like
there's a little
him just briefly going and like that. That's
so it was also a jump scare. It was gross and a jump scare. The unholy combination of my two least favorite scary moments. Well, there's just what's the new horror series with just ultra violent that you guys like?
Terrifier.
There you go.
Clown. Yeah, those are.
I hate that movie.
Well, I love how like they make use of their low budget and special effects to become really successful. So from a movie making standpoint, I love what they're doing, even if I find them to just be
I'm not
crazy.
trying to go on a tangent. I'm just saying nothing about Seven by today's standards was visually horrific or offensive, or the idea of the bad guy winning, but back then that was all very subversive and nasty feeling and didn't feel good. But what made it such a good movie, as Jack pointed out, in agreement, that part of a divisive ending means the movie is great up until the ending, and then it becomes divisive. Seven is really almost more of a detective mystery than it is a horror movie, I would say. And it's quite a well-constructed one. It's still a movie, and it's goofy. Kevin Spacey, gosh, if we would have just known he was playing himself the whole time.
Well, he had sex with women, so he's not really playing himself. No.
But it's you have these 7 deadly sins with a twist at the end where Spacey gets both himself and Brad Pitt, both with the last 2 of the 7 deadly sins. So it's kind of a slow burn suspense. There's a genuine murder mystery going on there. There's genuinely well thought out clues that sort of take you on this journey. And you have the hot-headed young guy through Brad Pitt, but then you have the wise old guy who almost doesn't even want to be doing it anymore, who he himself gets sucked into the mystery. And so you as the viewer clearly get sucked into, and I mean, it's very good acting. So I think it was in the 90s, the expectation was that this impossible situation would get resolved by the good guys who would win. And that not happening. And Kevin Spacey, part of what makes him such a good villain is in the cop car ride out to the final murder scene. He's rubbing it in their faces. You guys didn't catch me. I came and turned myself in, right? Like he really and truly won on an intellectual level. And so maybe it's not quite so crazy to see something like that now. I still highly recommend go watching it. But anyway, that's my old man context for you guys. There hadn't been anything like this. It was like a Disney movie where a character dies at the end instead of his parents dying at the beginning.
If you recall, to go
Good
off
joke.
of your point, John, that they actually, I think in the car, Brad Pitt brings up how we almost caught you at your apartment, and he points out that, like, how'd you find me? And it was basically implied, he's like, he knows that they only could have found him if they went extra legal means. They basically, I forget exactly how it happened, but they used like
he also
they paid off somebody.
Brad Pitt says something like, I seem to remember, having you dead to rights. And Kevin Spacey says, I seem to remember breaking your face. Like he knocked Brad Pitt out and could have killed him, but he let him go. Yeah.
Yep. And another thing is that Kevin Spacey, John Doe, he pretended to be a journalist, and that's how he knew that Brad Pitt was married and eventually killed Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah, he has that little scene early on where he's like asking a question and just runs right by him and never really noticed.
Yeah, and another aspect that we didn't mention, he doesn't just kill Gwyneth Paltrow, he kills Gwyneth Paltrow and her unborn child, which Mills doesn't know. And it only adds further fuel to Brad Pitt's Mills fire, which is why he kills him.
Another thing that made it so egregious in the 90s, that was pretty hardcore back then.
Yeah, that was really what kind of stemmed this off is this movie has a reputation of being extremely dark, but John, as you rightly point out, there's really not that much gratuity in it. There's not a whole lot of gore. It's the visual aesthetic and just dour vibe of the movie. The whole movie is depressing. Even the beacon of light in this movie is Miller and Gwyneth, Brad Pitt, Gwyneth Paltrow. They're a young family starting up in a new city, and the first case he gets is this horrific case. They get screwed over by their landlord. He's like, there's a train going by, and she basically finds out she's pregnant. She confides this in Morgan Freeman's character, and it's just dire because no one can, no matter how hard you try, it seems like no one can get ahead in this universe. And speaking of which, you mentioned that I think it's intentional. They never mention what city's this from. It's supposed to be kind of ambiguous because this could happen anywhere. I actually saw a theory online once that this is Gotham City. There's a Batman villain that's kind of similar where he kills people based off the 7 deadly sins that predates this movie. So the idea is that maybe this is a precursor to one of the Batmans, but
Mhm.
that remains to be seen.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like I think it's safe to say that our takes on this divisive ending leans towards a positive side, because the main reason people seemed to dislike it at the time was because it went against the audience's sensibilities. But from a storytelling standpoint, it's pretty consistent all throughout, in terms of its in terms of the story it's trying to tell, which is which is finding purpose in a world gone crazy. Like Somerset, he's the actual main character, not Mills, like Brad Pitt's character, because he's disillusioned, but by the end he finds inspiration again, because he finds that the world is so crazy that he can't find himself just sitting back and letting everything remain crazy. He has to be the positive change he wants to see, which is a pretty uplifting message despite everything that happens.
Yeah, I'm realizing there's some similarities in tone and theme to like No Country for Old Men. They're kind of getting at the same idea in different ways. I guess let me ask you guys Socratically. I mean, Seven, number one, is it a movie you find yourself returning to?
Not really. I think it's like a once you've seen it, if you've seen it once, that's where you get the most out of it.
Yeah, it's a very nihilistic movie. Again, I find like my interest in watching everything up until the end, like if I could not know what the twist was, that part of the movie remains very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
I do
Yes.
sometimes, I like, what is the point of a movie that just beats you over the head with nihilism? And maybe in some ways I'm starting to feel like maybe I really don't like Seven that much the more I think about it.
Mm.
Again, what it worked in the context of the time it existed in. If everything is a happy ending and you're a film person or an art person, then you kind of feel that itch for something a little bit different. But now in a 2025 context, why in the fuck would I subject myself to the movie Seven? Like what is the point? It's supposed to be entertainment. So maybe we can be divisive right now. I mean, would you still consider it a good movie?
I would still consider it a good movie, but good movie isn't necessarily tied to rewatchability.
Well, what I mean is if it's implied by the word movie that it is entertainment.
It's one of those things where the entertainment that I get out of it at this point, once you watch it again, is only in watching it with people that haven't already seen it. Seeing them kind of go through the mystery themselves, even if
Right.
they know the twist, kind of enjoy. Like, it is a very nihilistic movie. It is very dour. Not a ton of rewatchability, but there's good chemistry between the characters. I think at the end of the day, if this weren't considered a classic movie and it was just kind of something on our yellow list, I'd say I'd give it a 5, 6 out of 10, maybe.
I give it a 6 or a 7.
Yeah, like I would have given it a 6, 7, or even higher at the start of this very show. Now I'm starting to be like 3, 4. I mean, it's like people or anything, songs, music. Like you see, they get really famous in their own time, but they have no staying power. I feel like Seven's one of those. But now I'm thinking like if somebody remade or recut it where like there was a different twist in the ending, I probably would watch it again.
Yeah. Well, if you
Just by changing like the last 30 minutes.
yeah.
If someone's got a new 30 minutes at the end, would you watch it again? I'd be like, yeah, probably.
Yeah. Well, there have been like alternate endings that were originally suggested that have circulated online, and it involves Morgan Freeman's character actually shooting John Doe, or like preventing like Mills from killing
To break
John Doe.
his little plan.
Yeah, and Gwyneth Paltrow doesn't die in the end.
I don't know that I really care about Gwyneth Paltrow dying. I mean, it is super dark. I mean, basically as it exists, it proves the old, Morgan Freeman's character right. It's No Country for Old Men in an even darker way in a lot. I mean, that's the horror of the movie, is this implication that in any city, anywhere you are. Number one, your existence is gray and bleak. You're going to get scammed by your landlord. You're going to have a shitty job. You're going to try to struggle to bring life into this world and stay positive, and the universe will just take a giant shit on you, and that's how it ends. Not that there's not like artistic merit in telling that story, because it does happen. But call me cringe or call me a boomer or whatever, but to me, like, there needs to be a point to the art. Like, to me, the most extreme version of Seven, I'm reminded this old short film. It's, when I say short film, I think it's like 40 minutes long. It's called Begotten. Have you guys ever heard of this? It's
No.
like sort of a
Who
famous.
directed it?
Oh, Eli Marenge or something, a Jewish
Okay.
guy, I think which is just saying. It's 40 minutes of horrible animation of just like shapeless, weird figures raping and murdering each other.
Misery porn.
I believe the very first scene is described as God killing himself.
Wow.
It said, but it was like all over the internet back when I got into movies. Begotten, and it is just it's unwatchably depressing. I don't know what the point of it is, other than if somebody who's experienced that and they're like, wow, yeah, that captures how I felt when I was being raped to death.
Yeah,
It's like, okay, great work hard.
It's one
I
of
guess.
those things. It's like, who made this and why?
Well, I mean, Seven in a way is projecting into your brain the world we sort of do live in now. Like, it's just, it really starts to kind of feel that way, and that makes the movie so much less
Enjoyable.
appealing. Like,
Yeah.
if I want to see Seven, I'll just go walk down the block for 2 hours.
yeah. I'm kind of seeing what you're. I kind of understand what you're saying, John, because there are a lot of films that are pretty much misery porn, and even if they have like an uplifting message, like, or just like a saying, "Oh yeah, well, by the way, actually, life is worth living," yada yada yada. That it kind of just feels like a walk back a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know that I need that, but I like what you're saying. Like, if Morgan Freeman had shot him in order to like, but he still goes to jail, even if Gwyneth Paltrow is still dead, like that. I find that right now, I find that more interesting to think about.
Wait a minute. If Morgan Freeman shot John Doe,
So he
that's the
goes,
ending?
he opens the box as he does in the real film. He sees her head. He says, "Don't come here. John Doe has the upper hand now," which is a stupid line, but that's what he says. And then he runs back and just shoots John Doe, knowing in the moment he sees Gwyneth Paltrow's head that John Doe's plan
Yeah.
is to get Brad Pitt to kill him. And so Morgan Freeman therefore doesn't kill him out of wrath, which is supposed to be Brad Pitt's sin. He kills him out of a sort of,
envy.
Well, that's John Doe.
Oh, yeah,
but
John.
He kills him
for a good reason, just to protect, and to also truly take down like, that would have derailed the plan.
Yeah.
I feel like that would, I mean, it wouldn't be the same level of wrath as.
It wouldn't be wrath, therefore meaning John Doe loses.
You're right. You're right.
Even
Because
though Morgan Freeman still loses because he gets arrested for murdering a guy. I mean, another part of Seven, if you think about it harder, is they never would have fucking drove the actual dude out there with just 2 cops. Like, that's not how it would never went down that way.
Yeah.
And that fucking delivery van with her head would have been seen way earlier and been stopped.
he was just there. Imagine being the Uber driver. You're delivering someone's head.
I mean, you just gotta accept a little bit of, and then of course, I think the movie was tremendously well acted until that, when I think Morgan Freeman's lines sucked and Brad Pitt's acting left something to be desired.
Yeah, Morgan Freeman.
What's in the box?
Yeah, Morgan Freeman was kind of like unnecessary for that entire process, because he didn't really he just like, don't shoot her the entire time, and that was like the bulk of his scene, of like what he added in that scene.
Yeah, I mean, you ask yourself, what would Morgan Freeman's character really have done once he saw Gwyneth Paltrow's head? He either would have got Brad Pitt out of there, or he would have shot John Doe.
He would, or he could have tried lying in the moment to Mills, like saying, "It's a fake, it's a mannequin. Like, let's just take it back to
certainly something other than turning for the first time in a whole movie into a helpless retard. Yeah, something other than that.
Yeah.
Just to stick with the envy thing here, this is actually the part of the film I really do like, along with just sort of the atmosphere and mystery. But I think Kevin Spacey's character is excellently written. and highly accurate to the limited degree, admittedly, I understand psychology. But number one, that he's very high IQ, and a bit obsessive compulsive. And then, so therefore it's the idea of like the guy that gets pissed. We talked about falling down just a little bit ago. Same kind of concept. A guy who sort of snaps because he feels like he's the only one following the rules and nobody else is. And so he's clearly crazy and isolated and nihilistic, and decides his final act. It's if, again, he does kill people in a certain sense, because if they just killed themselves, he wouldn't have murdered anybody. But he finds that a morbidly obese guy, and he just sort of pushes it to the extreme.
Mm-hmm.
He finds, I don't know, maybe you could say the lust is that she's enabling this in some way. I mean, I see your point on that. But what I think was the genius of it actually is the envy at the end. He has the self-awareness to know that even he himself is not a good person.
Yeah.
And he's envious of, using Brad Pitt and Gwyneth Paltrow as the example, of people that are able to have seemingly normal lives. And I think that is a very subversive thing Seven was doing on purpose. It was trying to get other downtrodden people, which was already happening in the 90s, to identify, like you do identify with Kevin Spacey when he finally explains himself in some way, like a woman who only wanted to be alive if she could be beautiful, or these fat people that are just absolutely gluttonous, or like to some degree he is a vigilante. Maybe he's Batman, Josh, I don't know. But he obviously, when you step back and out of the film world and look at it like a rational person, if it was really happening, he's a murderer and he's insane. And there's way more healthy ways to go about doing those sorts of things. And so, but what makes him truly interesting and not a cartoon is that his plan involved basically suicide. He wanted to kill himself because he was guilty.
Yeah, I think
that's
it
interesting.
goes. I agree, and it's one of those things where John, you have a little bit of a background in psychology. To me, this came across as it's one of those double-edged swords where both Brad Pitt and John Doe are correct. When they're talking in the car, Brad Pitt goes, "You're a psychopathic killer just looking for an excuse to kill." And he goes, "You laud yourself as this lawman, this man above it all, but you broke the law to find me." And I think there's truth in both, where John Doe may have had the genuine disgust we feel when we look at morbidly obese people, or he's disgusted by the pederast, or the prostitutes. Understandable, but it was really, I think you often find this in killers, they're looking for the excuse to kill. That might be the cause, but
not usually themselves, though.
True, which is why I think, as you bring up, that little bit of nuance there is something very interesting that adds to it.
It almost makes Spacey's character a little bit supernatural.
Yes. But if you recall, he does talk about, you could almost argue he had this in Pride too, because he talked about how what he is doing, what he is accomplishing on this day will be talked about forever. And I ultimately thought, to me, when I watched the movie, it was like, I think that kind of takes away from it. You know what I mean? It almost kind of shows the hypocrisy in his character.
Which he is, by the way. Like, he's the bad guy. And so go ahead, Jack.
I actually agree he is a hypocrite, but that's what I actually enjoyed about his character, because it reflects a lot of real life serial killers, or even like domestic terrorists, because they've clearly thought about this a lot, and they know what kind of criticisms people are going to levy against them. So they come up with some half-assed explanation or excuse. So to me, like, I like that about his character. I thought that was pretty accurate to how real life serial killers operate.
I don't know that I would call it half-assed. I mean, the dude in his apartment supposedly had like 8 billion books that were filled cover to cover with all of his thoughts. I think he was genuinely crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
I think he was probably a normal, smart person. We're talking about a fake fucking character that's Kevin Spacey of all people, but that is sort of the story that's not told, that you only see Kevin Spacey again at the very end. It's not like you're really seeing him throughout the movie. But when he explains himself, you understand he's been on this sort of journey of his own, and it has beaten him. He's lost and he's gone crazy, but he has enough of a spark still left in his head that even he acknowledges it. And so he comes up with what is really an elaborate suicide plan. All of these murders, leaving clues, getting caught, intending to prove a point. I think Josh makes maybe the one good argument against him, which is that he's proud of himself, and it's very obvious. And that is sort of, I think, a good part of the movie that a discerning viewer will look at and be like, okay, this dude's just fucking crazy. But people also need to be beat over the head with things these days, and it's kind of hard to make movies for discerning viewers. But I really like, again, the primary emotion crazy people tend to look at when they start killing is disgust. I think that part is accurate. You start to see people as subhuman, less than you. They talk about that with some of his journal entries, how he vomits on somebody. He's so disgusted by them. So I don't know. I think to me he was convincing, and I think it's very interesting that it was sort of a suicide plan. Like, he was trapped. I think the movie makes you want to identify with him, honestly, like that you're trapped in mouse utopia, let's say, right? You guys know that experiment?
Mouse Utopia.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That, to me, Seven is in the world of mouse utopia, is what I would say. And there are no good guys, maybe, in a sense. Except for maybe Morgan Freeman, who knew a world before it became that way, but even he's totally fucking jaded and ready to be done.
That's why I think the ending where Morgan Freeman takes the route of killing him to basically protect, that almost would be a better but darker ending, because then at the end of the day, Morgan Freeman really, he didn't lose much. He just met Mills. He doesn't really know them. Obviously, it's sad, and I'm sure he's very heartbroken by this whole thing. But if Mills is the one who survives the ordeal, he's lost his wife and his unborn child, his high school sweetheart. And now his partner, that was kind of like a mentor to him, is in jail. And John Doe, he did lose, but did he really even know he lost?
See what I mean? It's way more interesting.
True.
Good point. Fair enough. Well, clearly that ending was not very divisive for us, but still a fun movie to talk about. Are we ready to get into our recommendation portion of the show, the stoplight? You ready to go, Jack?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
Here we go.
What are you hoping for, Jackie? You hoping for a certain color?
I could go any, really, for this week.
Boop, boop. Red.
Okay.
All
right.
All right.
Josh.
Now for me.
I think we've each gotten each color by now, haven't we?
Yeah, we should have. All right.
Yellow.
And that leaves John.
Give me that green spin. I'll bet $1 million it's going to be green. Watch this time. It'll fail. It'll be fucking red again. All right.
Green. Let's go, gentlemen. So, Jack, you got red. What is your red pick?
So my red pick is Sunshine, directed by Danny Boyle. He's mainly known for the 28 Days Later franchise, which is a British zombie dystopia franchise series. But Sunshine is a sci-fi film where a small group of astronauts are tasked with reigniting the sun, which has unexpectedly gone out. So if they don't reignite it, it's going like all of humanity is going to go extinct because they'll all freeze to death in the coldness of space. And the first two acts are really interesting because it's this group of people making all sorts of judgment calls on how to deal with their situation. They make certain decisions you may or may not agree or disagree with, but you can see at least see where they're coming from. However, everyone who has seen the film will like always say that the third act sucks, and that's because it transitions away from being a sci-fi, like a straightforward sci-fi story, to a horror slasher because a character suddenly shows up and just starts killing people out of the blue. And he's supposed to represent so all throughout the movie, like I said, it's characters using like reason, like the scientific process, like thinking things through. This character is meant to be an allegory for religion, how religion is lack of reason and it gets people killed. Like he speaks in religious concepts. Like I think he even says at one point, I have spoken to God and he wants me to send us all to heaven. So he wants the sun to go out so humanity can go extinct. And it just really poisoned just the entire experience for me because I wanted it to maintain this consistent tone that it set up previously, but it just fumbled. Yeah. So Danny Boyle, pretty goofy guy. Wouldn't recommend Sunshine because it just leads to disappointment.
I think that's a great pick, Jack. I had sort of exactly the same experience with Sunshine. I would go as far as to say as the majority of that movie up until it gets retarded is actually awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And it's visually very awesome. And it's Cillian Murphy, right? I believe
Cillian Murphy and Chris Evans is in it.
Yeah.
Benedict Wong.
Yeah.
How old is this movie?
2006, I think.
Yeah, 5 or 6 maybe. I'll see if I can pull it up. But I remember it was I think the sun is like dying, like it's running, and they have to fly some nuclear payload to reignite it. And it's like it's not unlike Seven. It's actually quite good up until that goofy fucking shit.
And some people might say, "Oh, well, this takes place in 2057, right? So that's retarded science because the sun would die out by then." But they try their best to give decent scientific explanations for why it would. Like it's like a remnant from the Big Bang is causing it to die out, and that's pretty interesting. It's a pretty interesting hypothetical.
Good enough for a science fiction movie. 2007, by the way.
Yeah, 2007. Okay, but but again, like it just abandons all of that to have a shitty horror slasher villain introduced by the
totally unnecessary. It was heading in a great direction.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and go because I'm the orange, which means I'm going to do mine next. So then we'll do me and then John, and then I'll do my yellow. So my pick for the red category was a movie with Denzel Washington and James Gandolfini called Fallen. I don't know if either of you guys have seen this movie, but basically what it is, I don't know if it came out before 7 or after 7, but visually it's like identical. It has to do with a cop played by Denzel Washington, who is investigating a serial killer in, I presume, New York City. The movie opens with the serial killer who has been caught being executed, and then Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. Turns out it was a demon, and the demon must inhabit a human body. It possesses people, and it can only transfer through touch unless its host is killed. Then, if it's in a short enough distance, it can remotely jump from one body to another. Denzel Washington uncovers the mystery, finds out the demon. He's thousands of years old, named Azazel. He's just kind of screwing around with him. And the divisive ending is essentially the demon wants to kill Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington lures it out to a cabin in the woods. It comes possessing his partner. They have a shootout. Denzel Washington, unknowingly to the demon, has poisoned himself. So when he shoots his partner, the demon jumps into Denzel's body, who then dies of self-poisoning. But the twist ending is that there was a cat nearby. So the demon is able to jump into the cat and escape.
Damn cats.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds pretty stupid, honestly. I zoned out.
Yeah, and I love a good like bad movie, and I thought that's what this would be, and then I watched it. Don't watch it.
It sounds like a failed attempt at making a franchise, because they didn't even need to have Azazel is just one demon, right? They could have just had a sequel with entirely different cast and a different demon.
Yeah, I don't know what if you watch this movie, the visual style, the editing style, it's so similar to Seven. I can't imagine this was not like taken from that, inspiration taken from that, assuming it came out afterward.
It did, 98. So it probably did. Might even be
Okay,
the same
almost.
photographer. I don't know.
Almost certainly then. So, John, what is your pick for the red category?
My red, meaning worse than Seven, was the 2004 film The Village by M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh my God. You're giving me PTSD flashback.
And I will openly admit that once again, I actually mostly enjoyed that movie up until the twist. That's when I started to realize what a fraud M. Night Shyamalan was. If you don't know, it's these like pilgrim age looking people living in a village in the Northeast. You always assume it's 1700s or something like that. Very well acted by Joaquin Phoenix. Has Sigourney Weaver. Has Adrian Brody playing a retard fairly well, actually. And is it John Hurt is the main male guy, I think. Anyway, really good actors. Has a lot of creepy, suspenseful scenes, but it's sort of like you can tell Shyamalan, anybody can make suspense if you never plan the ending. So something crazy is happening. Yeah, and sure was until the fucking ending when the blind girl crawls out and it turns out it's modern times. And these are a bunch of rich people who like pay planes not to fly over their nature reserves so they can pretend they live like it's fucking 1650. It's retarded. It's the stupidest twist ending I've ever seen.
I remember watching it for the first time, and I had the exact same reaction. I was like, well, this is retarded.
It's literally the point at which every moviegoer turned against M. Night Shyamalan. It was like, yeah, Sixth Sense was a great twist, and then Unbreakable was like, it's all right. And then I think The Village, and everyone was like, I'm done with this.
Yeah, that's one of those where I have not seen it because the ending is infamous. So I just didn't watch it.
It's bad.
Yeah. We're gonna go ahead and go. All right. So now we're gonna head into the yellow category. Almost got me there, John. You're trying to trip me up. So my pick for the yellow category is Dr. Sleep.
When I was a kid, there was a place. A dark place. They closed it down and let it rot. But the things that lived there...
Hello, Danny.
They come back.
I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this. This is a 2019 sequel to The Shining. And this movie, not super critically acclaimed. I thought it was decent. It's very tonally different than The Shining. If you go into it expecting a Shining sequel, you will be disappointed. I just thought of this. If you go into it, this is a generic Stephen King movie. It's a fun time. And basically, people were kind of split on this because it has a good kind of buildup showing the life of Danny Torrance after the events of The Shining. And he, similar to his father, struggles with alcohol till eventually he finds a quiet little town, turns his life around, and ends up having a little prodigy. He ends up or protege in a character called Abracadabra, but then ultimately sacrifices his life to save hers in the Overlook Hotel. And I remember people were kind of split on this because they didn't like that he died. They didn't like that it came back to the Overlook Hotel. This was kind of the cinema snobby type people. Honestly, I had a little bit of a hard time finding one for the orange category, but I remember when this movie came out, people were not satisfied with the ending and I enjoyed it. So, therefore fitting the definition of a divisive ending.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen Doctor Sleep, but it makes sense that people would find like any sequel to The Shining not made by Stanley Kubrick himself to be a middling experience, because honestly, Stephen King is compared to him is a middle of the road writer. Like Stanley Kubrick is a legend in his own category. So
yeah, I completely agree.
Kubrick is a tough act to follow. I have not seen this. I was reading about it while you were talking. I might check this out. It seems kind of interesting.
Yeah, and so I know this is going to be kind of a hot take. I do not think that Ewan McGregor is a bad actor, but he has certain performances that are hit or miss, and I would say he's a victim of the writing. When he does an American accent, there's this like when he's trying to be dramatic, it doesn't come across very well. And there's literally a scene, I don't want to spoil it too much, but you know the classic scene from The Shining where where Jack Torrance is sitting at the bar with the bartender Lloyd. There's a very similar scene in this movie, and Ewan McGregor's monologue is very bad. It leaves a lot to be desired. But it is a fun watch. I do recommend it.
Yeah, okay. You've seen Trainspotting, surely?
Yes, a long time ago. Yes,
phenomenal in that. Yeah. So I agree. I don't mind him.
Yeah, I didn't find his. Yeah, if you've ever seen the Fargo TV series, he appears in season 3. He actually plays 2 characters, Ewan McGregor, and he puts on a pretty convincing American accent. It's a Milwaukee type accent, though.
It's not the accent. It's certain line delivery. I do my best to attribute it to the fact that he is British or Scottish, Irish, who knows? But yeah. So, but there's just something about his delivery. It's very like breathy. It's very wow, yeah. Like it sounds like acting. You know, it sounds like day one acting. But with that being said, John, what's your pick for the yellow category?
Well, speaking of Kubrick, I don't know that you could say this is lesser known, but I'd say definitely lesser seen these days. 2001: A Space Odyssey has, I think, at least in my time, for people my age, people would say it might be the most divisive ending. It's a divisive movie in general, honestly. But the ending with the Star Child, the little fucking baby floating by Earth.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if Kubrick knows what the fuck that was about, to tell you the truth. Its explanation of it. But I happen to, again, I have rewatched it a few times. It's a tough movie to go back and watch every time you watch it. It's just very, very like high IQ paced. Like you're just supposed to stare at every frame, of which there was amazing things done. I think there's no dialogue until like minute 21, I want to say. And you have the famous match cut at the beginning with the monkey throwing the bone that becomes a spaceship. And yeah, as a filmmaker, it's a fascinating movie to watch. And then, of course, it actually gets pretty intense once they get to the spaceship with Hal, right? But then you have the weird plaid fucking Spaceballs lampooned it and whatever. Like, and then and then you have the Star Child. So I think if you haven't seen 2001, you should still go watch it, especially if you're a film guy and you like cameras and shots and how they do things and stuff like that. If you're a normie, probably skip 2001.
Yeah.
You just won't get a lot out of it.
Yeah. 2001, from an artistic point of view, is one of the most iconic films ever made. So it's actually interesting that you picked that for this category, John, because we were at the start, we were thinking of like divisive film endings as, a person has to see as good or bad, but 2001's ending is just it's divisive because nobody can agree what the ending means.
You can't explain it, yeah. Which I think is the point. Frankly, I mean, yeah, I would say it's a good movie up until, I mean, I liked it. I like movies where you're just kind of like, somebody smarter than you made it,
Mhm.
even if you don't really get why. And you're still maybe a little suspicious. It's just pretentious fucking with you. Like it could be a troll.
Yeah.
Could be.
That's the thing with ambiguity. It either works or it doesn't work.
But it's hard to like be ambiguous and not immediately have me want to punch you in the face. And that movie, I felt like it was my fault instead of Kubrick's.
Yeah. And again, like with ambiguity, it can either feel like, oh, uh, the director or writer is making like a very profound point, or it just feels like a cop out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, here's some fucking shit. No one will be able to know what the hell's going on. There we go. We're done. Does feel a little bit like that.
So,
Josh, have you seen 2001?
yes, I did. The company I was with did not enjoy it, which we were not in a theater, so it was a very loud setting. It was kind of hard for me to enjoy it. I need to go back and watch it kind of on my own because I know that's kind of a crown jewel in cinema history. And my watch experience, it just wasn't the right place, right time.
You got to go lock yourself away by yourself, get into complete darkness, silence, and then watch it, and really assume that if you don't get something, it's because you're not smart enough, not Kubrick, and then it becomes kind of a mystery.
All right. I'll check it out. So, Jack, what was your pick for the yellow category?
I picked another David Fincher movie, and as usual with my picks for this category, I found it to be better than the film we talked about, even though that's supposed to be reserved for the green category. But I picked his 2007 film Zodiac, and it's a great movie. I would go so far as say that's one of the best films I've seen. It's one of the best films of the 21st century.
Really?
But people did not like the ending because it's a story about the journalist and the police trying to track down the Zodiac killer, and they go through all these twists and turns, but the ending and is where the police have found a prime suspect, but they are unable to go through with apprehending him because they can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this is their guy. This was the Zodiac killer. And a lot of people found that to be a disappointing ending, and that just the film just wasted their time because they were never given a absolute confirmation on who the Zodiac killer was. And I just entirely disagree, because if you watch the film, it really makes it clear who the Zodiac killer is, or who David Fincher at least thinks the Zodiac killer is. What makes the film genius to me is how it successfully captures this unique point in time of when the Zodiac killer was running around. Even if we know who the Zodiac killer is today, Ted Cruz, that still doesn't change the reality a lot of people felt when he was running around as an unknown, just fucking with people constantly. And it really addresses this reality of how the police don't have absolute power to protect everyone, and how you can never be the horror of not knowing for sure whether the danger has been whether the danger has been averted or not. That's just something I find really compelling.
I like that. I don't know about you guys, but the scene, I watched this movie a long time ago. Haven't watched it since. The scene I remember loving the most, because it just made me die laughing, was that scene where the Zodiac killer murders that young couple. And it was
really stabbing.
Yeah, to me, yes. And to me, it was funny up until that point because it was so weird and awkward. There's no music. It's just a guy in a weird mask runs up with a gun and is like, "Get up," and he's like tying him up. And even the dude is like, "Is this real?" And he goes, "Is that gun even loaded?" And then he takes the clip out, or magazine out, shows him the bullets and everything. And I just remember the way it was shot. I was like, is this supposed to be funny? And then, of course, he starts stabbing them and it gets really serious and dark and brutal.
Yeah, I remember like I was like freaked out by that because it's not like your traditional slasher where it's like played up, so it's not real. But this actually felt real.
Right.
Yeah, messy and goofy and a little weird. Yeah, after the stabbing starts, you're like, that probably is kind of closer to how something like that might go down than what movies normally show.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So now we're going to transition into the green category, which John got. So, John, let's hear your pick for the green.
My green movie was No Country for Old Men.
What's the most you ever lost in a coin toss? Call it. Call it.
I think it's one of the best movies made in my lifetime. You might even make the argument that the ending wasn't that divisive. I mean, I think it won the Academy Award for Best Picture, but it is nihilistic, I guess, in all the ways that Seven is. But it sort of, I think, does a better job at illustrating that these human beings brought it all upon themselves. And what I mean by that is even Josh Brolin's character, who's sort of the good guy, steals money from a drug deal gone wrong, doesn't initially give water to the one wounded guy he sees. He ends up feeling guilty about that, which makes him go back and sets everything into motion. But Anton Chigurh is a great character, Javier Bardem's breakout role. I think Anton Chigurh is just death. He's death incarnate. And the No Country for Old Men is, I think, Tommy Lee Jones's character does a maybe better job than Morgan Freeman's character at sort of explaining why he feels the way he does, and why he's ready to be done with it. And the ending of the movie is I guess, in the one sense that Chigurh gets away with it and never gets caught. But that speech that Tommy Lee Jones give, I think I remember I saw that in theaters. I loved the ending.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody around me was like, "What the fuck was that?" He gives this speech about his father and the dream he has, where a strong person will carry the torch out into the darkness, and the fact that you can see it out there gives you something to go off of, something to aim at. And then I woke up and the movie ends.
Yeah.
I really like that. It's slightly more optimistic than Seven, maybe, but in like a very adult way. It's kind of like, yes, everything sucks and evil and death is inevitable, but most of the people that get involved in this death kind of bring it on themselves. They've done something illegal or wrong. Even Josh Brolin's wife sort of knows he has this illegal money, and maybe their deadly sin is greed, right, or whatever. So, and then Woody Harrelson is an unsavory character. I think he literally gets described with that word. So, that movie is maybe about. Sorry, I won't ramble too much. Is about the nihilism encroaching on the few remaining good people, and there's just not really anything you can do about it. Therefore, it's No Country for Old Men. It's
I love it.
Yeah, it's like it's nobody's fault, and you can maybe stay clear of it if you live a clean life. But even then, you're gonna die.
That was my green movie as well.
Oh, no.
So John took the recommendation right out of my mouth. So Jack, did you want to say anything about it before we get to your green pick?
Okay, so both of you will probably be happy to hear this, but No Country for Old Men was also
Nice.
my green pick.
Let's go.
We can just have this final section. This just be one big discussion around No Country for Old Men. If you guys don't have a problem with that, yeah. So my overall takeaway of No Country for Old Men is I also love the ending. I think if I would actually regard it as the best film of the 21st century. That's how much I love it. And a lot of people dislike the ending, I believe, is because they find it to be too nihilistic. I had the opposite takeaway, in all honesty, because even though it breaks this like a core part of the film is that it challenges the myth, it challenges the myth that we've all been brought up on, that justice always prevails, like evil is always held accountable. That's not always necessarily the case, and that's something Tommy Lee Jones realizes in the end, when he has to deal with a threat that is beyond his comprehension. However, when I look at the title "No Country for Old Men," I don't necessarily think of age. I think of mentality. So
Yeah.
when you like, old doesn't refer to like how you are physically. It refers to your mentality and becoming too complacent and not understanding that we're all products of our own time. And if you don't grow and understand the world as it changes, then you're just going to be left behind eventually. Which, again, like the ending message kind of mirrors Seven's ending in a way, in that if you want to be the positive impact on the world, you have to do that yourself. You have to try yourself instead of expecting someone else to do it for you. And I just love that message.
Absolutely. And that is a terrific note to end on. I love No Country for Old Men. This is our first ever, I was about to say three-way. Let's not call it that. A tie, I guess, a three-way tie where we all had the same pick for the green category. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead. What'd you say, Jack?
And again, we do not plan this. We don't share our like picks with each other beforehand.
Right.
It's true.
But with that being said, we got to wrap it up here. I'm going to go ahead and spin our little wheel. And our topic for next week is blaxploitation. So I'm sure that'll be a very entertaining episode. But with that being said, this has been another edition of Real Talk. Tune in next week to hear our discussion on blaxploitation films. I am, of course, joined by my tremendous panel. Check out their content in the descriptions below. With that being said, we'll see you on another episode of Real Talk next week.